Hey folks, I'm really excited about what we got in store for you today. Recently, I released a video directed to the ever-growing ex-Jehovah's Witness community on YouTube, asking for ones to reach out if they want their stories heard, and he didn't disappoint. Today, I interview a woman who has a fascinating and intimate perspective on this organization. If you follow my channel, you know that its focus is on the law of attraction. So when I speak about the Jehovah's Witnesses, it's with a view towards moving on, picking up the pieces and being an active creator of our lives, not allowing circumstance to enslave us. And my guest today is a shining example of just that. Let's get right into it. Hey good people, I'm Derek London. Thanks for checking out my channel. Around here we talk about everything law of attraction. We discuss a lot about the psychological, scientific, and rational basis for subscribing to this philosophy of mine. And in fact, if your reality could stand some change for the better, you have only to start there, with your mind. Hit that subscribe button and settle in, because your life will never be the same. Hey everyone, thanks so much as usual for tuning in. I'm really honored to be joined by Michelle Hoffman today, who was baptized as a Jehovah's Witness in the early part of 2007. She was married to Christopher, who has served as an elder for 4 years, which is no small deal in my mind. It's one of the main reasons I'm so excited to interview her, because I think the perspective of elders' wives is very revealing about this organization. What's so unique about Michelle's story is how her husband tragically passed away in just 2018. He was tremendously young, 39 years old, and was actually in a process of leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, if I understand the situation correctly. There's so many questions I have about confronting such a tragedy, all while losing one's faith. I must say I'm tremendously appreciative for you agreeing to be my guinea pig today, Michelle. This is literally the first YouTube interview I've ever conducted on this channel. Michelle, thank you so much for being here, and welcome.
Thank you.
Why don't you start off? Oh, that's great. It's good to have you. Why don't you start off by telling us some basic things about yourself?
Okay. Well, I'm 40 years old. I got baptized in 2007. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool the boys. We have 3 boys that are 14, 13, and 5. We just recently moved to North Carolina and have recently disassociated from the Witnesses a couple months ago.
Oh, wow. What was your upbringing like? I understand you were raised as a Jehovah's Witness, and you had some familiarity with them, but...
Yeah, I wasn't raised a Jehovah's Witness. I had friends in elementary school that had invited me to the Kingdom Hall, and my mom was like, absolutely not. You are not to go there. But I was still allowed to go to their house, which is kind of weird for even Jehovah's Witness parents. You know,
yeah, indeed.
You're not allowed to associate with worldly kids, but yet I was still allowed to hang out with them and go to their house after school. And we didn't really have any kind of religious background. My mom could never really find a church where she felt comfortable or welcomed. So, we had different churches growing up. We never had one that we went to like religiously. I was pregnant with my first son in 2006. And I had told my husband that I wanted to do something spiritual. And he says, well, I'm not going to go to church because I've been to church, but I do know a place that we can go, because he was raised a Jehovah's Witness until he was 8 years old. And his dad had an affair and he got disfellowshipped, and he's still disfellowshipped to this day. So he's like, I don't want to go to a church, but we will go. And it was just before the memorial. And growing up, my mom was like, you cannot go there.
Yeah.
So I was kind of nervous. A couple of weeks before the memorial, I wanted to go to the meetings so that I knew what to expect.
Yeah.
I wasn't like shocked on the memorial night, like what was going to happen. So we were love bombed. Everybody was so excited to see Christopher because they hadn't seen him since he was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
So it was the same congregation that he had gone to. So everybody knew who he was.
Yeah.
And it was like something that my mom, I thought, would like, because that's what she was looking for. She wanted to be accepted and loved. So when we walked in and everybody was just so excited to see us, that's when we started Bible study, because I was like, this is amazing. These people like love you so much, and just like instant friends. And that's when I was like okay with going. We even went the next weekend, and then the memorial.
Yeah. Yeah, they fall all over themselves to get people through the front door, don't they?
Oh, it is. I wish we couldn't even walk. It was like we were celebrities.
Oh, wow.
It was like
Yeah.
everybody was on us.
Yeah, I think I went, well, I had been to the memorial, I think, back in 2016 or 2017. And just previous to that, I went in, and I was in a new area. I was in Victoria. No one ever knew me there. And yeah, as you said, just totally love bombed. Like you're absolute celebrity. It was actually quite nerve wracking for me. It was probably, did you find that? That like, you're just like, you're surrounded by people. It's like, leave me alone. I just want to sit in the back.
It was because I had, my youngest was only 4 months old, and that even added to it, because they were like, oh, it's a baby and we love you. It was
Let's get you baptized right now.
Yes.
What appealed to you about the organization when you first started? I mean, we talked about the kind of the love and the camaraderie and stuff, but besides that,
I had a few Bible questions growing up, like the 144,000.
yeah,
I had asked a couple of people in my family what that meant, because if only 144,000 are going to heaven, and this was before I knew the witness definition of the 144,000, I was like, I'm going to live my life the way I want to, because there's no way that I am part of that 144,000. So when we started the Bible study and realized that it makes kind of sense that I was never supposed to go to heaven, I'm supposed to live here on earth. So I was like, this makes total sense. So
yeah,
that kind of hooked me, because my family's definition of it was that is just an old number that John wrote when he was writing Revelation. So that's how many people were going to heaven at that time. And I was like, yeah, but how are we supposed to turn that into like modern day numbers? It didn't make any sense. So when they told me the witness definition of it, I was like, I can see that we don't want to die. I want to live forever. Like, it makes sense. So that is actually what hooked me. Yeah. Christopher was like, he's like, this is not like just a go to church on Sunday thing. He's like, this is a total lifestyle change, to where I was going to the meetings by myself a few times, especially during the week, because we had the Tuesday night book study, the Thursday night meeting, and then the Sunday meeting at that time. And he would stay home, and his brother lived with us at the time, and they would drink beer and watch TV while I took the boys to the meeting.
Yeah. Wow. So it sounds to me. Well, what was that, sorry?
He knew the in-depth lifestyle change that it was.
Oh, yeah.
And, was warning.
Even from his memories of an 8-year-old, hey, that stuck with him, hey?
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it sounds to me like you had quite a biblical background. I mean, I realize you weren't affiliated with the witnesses and so on. And you said that you always wanted to be a spiritual person. You always wanted to develop that in your life. Did you participate in Bible studies growing up or whatever? Like, because that's kind of an austere thing to know about the 144,000.
Yeah, it is strange, and it's what stuck with me, even though I had tried to read the Bible by myself a couple times, and when you just get to all the names and stuff, I'm like, forget it.
Yeah.
And I had watched a couple Kirk Cameron movies about Armageddon,
Yeah.
So I guess that was just intrigued me.
Yeah. Yeah. With your introduction to the witnesses, was there anything that was unclear or seemed weird? I mean, obviously you had a great introduction. Everyone love bombed you. Was there anything that, either shortly prior to your baptism or shortly after that that struck you as just kind of odd or sent up red flags, anything like that?
Well, my mom did try to come and tell me to not study.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for her because they tell you in the beginning of the Bible Teach book that people are not going to like that you're studying with the witnesses. So they automatically get that in there. And I'm like, well, of course they're not going to understand because they don't know, what we're doing and what it's about. So of course they're going to be upset. But she came to me with all kinds of printouts and stories, and the blood issue came up.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing was Chris's dad being disfellowshipped. He came over and he was like, you're going to have to choose between me and them.
Wow.
And realizing it now, 12 years, and you don't think about it at the time. You think you're doing the right thing, but yet you don't realize how that person suffers because, you're totally losing your family.
Yeah.
So it was him. Chris and his dad had a tough time when he came over.
Understandably.
Yeah, I wish he would have told us more at the time of why not to choose them over him, but he said that we have to do what's right for our family because he wanted to respect our choice, and he did, and we hadn't talked to him for 12 years.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it, that I think most outsiders might look at what Christopher's father said and be like, well, it's kind of harsh, to say, either me or the religion. But that's exactly the terms that the religion puts it in. And most people don't realize that,
Yeah.
It's amazing. How did you meet Christopher?
We had gone to high school together, and he was neighbors with my first husband.
Mm-hmm.
And we had been friends for a really long time, and it just worked out that we were in the right place at the right time. Met back up, and we got married in November of 2003.
Oh, wow. Very nice. Christopher's story in the organization, he was raised until, age of 8 years old. Had he had any affiliation with them since, like bump into them, get called on by the witnesses, anything like that?
Yes. His mom was actually in and out as well. So after she got reinstated after her husband left, and his sisters were in and out for a little while until they had issues, and then they left. And then when we started going back in 2006, they were kind of upset, knowing, of course, what we had to do. But Christopher, being the family, like, patriarch, I guess you would call him.
Yeah.
We're kind of like, we'll do whatever Christopher wants to do. There was a couple older siblings that are younger than Christopher, but we're like, I can't believe you guys are doing this.
Yeah.
Like, we were celebrating Christmas and holidays, and they're like, I can't believe you're going to give all that up.
Yeah.
So he was, when he was younger, his mom would play the Bible story book on the pink tapes, while they were sleeping. So it was just something that he thought was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
After I said, let's do something spiritual. So he's like, well, let's go here. So,
yeah. So you guys, he definitely had a extensive background there. I want to extend my heartfelt condolences for your loss there. That's just awful. From what I've heard, he sounded like just a fantastic person. Would you mind telling us about the circumstances surrounding his passing?
Well, he was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2016. He had just become an elder in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he wasn't a ministerial servant for very long, but he was a very in charge kind of guy.
Yeah.
He knew that the elders needed help, and if we were going to do this, he was going to do it with all we got.
Yeah.
And he did. So he became a ministerial servant and then an elder not far long after that. But he had surgery on a colon surgery in 2016, May 11th, and was right back to work. He was right back to doing congregational duties, which he was the talk coordinator. And if nobody showed up, he would fill in. I mean, this is all we did for 12 years. We were just poured our heart into all of it. The people, the organization. I mean, we were doing it. But then he got sick to where he couldn't walk. There was a tumor on his spine and on his tailbone and
Poor
then on his
guy.
bladder. So he got to the point where he couldn't walk, and we ended up going to Ecuador for probably 4 months. And, there was a guy down there that said that he would help with some different kind of therapies. And Christopher wanted to step down as an elder at that point because he was even conducting the Watchtower study, and it hurt him to stand up there for an hour.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And you could tell because he would rock back and forth, trying to get comfortable. But everybody loved the way he did it, that they were like, no, we're not gonna let you step down as an elder. We want you to come back from Ecuador and see how you are. So he just got worse from that point. When we got home from Ecuador, he had another emergency surgery in Ecuador while we were there, and not being able to speak any English was not very fun. But he couldn't walk at all. He got to the point where he was bedridden. So,
and did the blood issue ever come up along the way, or
it did.
Was something like that? It did, really?
It did. It came up in Ecuador when we were there. And then when we got home, because cancer takes the blood flow from your body.
Yeah.
So this is going to pain me to say it, but Christopher had 3 blood transfusions.
Oh, man.
That nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Because he would have been dead a year before if he hadn't done it.
Man, oh, man. I'm so sorry. I mean, it's good that he got the transfusions because, like, he might have been gone sooner,
He would have definitely been. He couldn't function. I mean, when you have your blood is at a 5 or a 4.
Yeah.
I mean, I could always tell when he needed it because he couldn't see, he couldn't function. It was, and then he received the blood, and he had that much longer with us.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. How did he
modern medicine?
Yeah, no kidding. How did he reconcile that in his mind? So he's an elder. Had he already stepped down when he got these blood transfusions?
Yes, when we got home and the elders came to our house wanting more time from Christopher, even though he was bedridden.
Yeah.
They're like, can you at least get 15 minutes? Because we weren't going out in service at all. I wasn't going to the meetings because he had a colostomy bag and he didn't want to be left with someone else. And they insisted, somebody else can sit with you. Somebody else can take your place. And Christopher's like, I don't feel comfortable with the things that Michelle does, leaving them for somebody else to do. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, no kidding.
So they're like, well, can you at least talk to your nurses for 15 minutes, at least turn in some time? You have the boys, you can count the time with the boys. And it just got to be just so much. But yes, he had stepped down because he's like, I can't do it. I'm bedridden. I cannot walk.
Yeah.
So they finally did delete him, is the official term of it.
Yeah.
They tell the congregation he has been deleted as an elder. But yes, he did do that before.
And so how long was that before his passing? That would have been
probably about 8 months, 8 to 9 months before he passed away.
Yeah. Yeah. How are your children doing through all of this?
They're strong.
Yeah.
They've seen how much he suffered and how much everybody, worked and, tried to do everything that we could. So
Yeah.
he's not suffering anymore. That's their.
Yeah. Well, let's get things on a little bit more of a lighthearted note there. I'm so
Okay.
sorry to hear
No,
about
it's
everything
okay.
you've been through. It's got to be just very difficult to talk about these things. You've mentioned in our email correspondences that travel and vacations have helped you since. You want to tell us a little bit about where you've been and things like that? You don't have to go into too much detail. I understand with YouTube, but
Yeah, after Christopher passed away, I was like, we kind of need to get away, clear our heads a little bit, and
yeah.
um, we drove to Washington State
Oh, nice.
to see some family. My mom lives in Idaho, and we kind of just took our time enjoying the Grand Canyon, Texas, Louisiana, Nevada. We went to Canada, we went to Grouse Mountain, and then we took our time and drove home, but we went through the top, Montana, Idaho,
Oh, very nice.
Indiana, Kansas. So I've been trying to do that since it's something that we've never been able to do before,
Yeah.
to kind of get out and see certain things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important to do that. And the States has so many nice places to see. We just got back from Vegas. That was a lot of fun. And yeah, I think the United States has a lot more to offer in that way than Canada. I mean, Canada is great. We got mountains and stuff, but I don't know. There's a real charm to the United States,
There's
you know.
so much to see.
Yeah. Did you both wake up to the dark side of this religion together, or was it like he came across some things and opened your mind to it? How did that work?
Well, this is where I have to thank my mother-in-law, which
Yeah.
actually introduced me to you
Oh,
from one
great.
of your videos. Um, when we were in Ecuador, Christopher said that he wanted to take a break from everything and kind of just get a fresh start and just think,
Yeah.
like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Um, and during that time, she was sending us videos of John Cedar,
Oh, yeah.
and he was kind of hesitant to watch them at first.
Hmm.
Um, but the main one that really got us was the Pillowgate,
Yeah.
because raising our children as Jehovah's Witnesses, our goal for them at 19 was to go to Bethel.
Yeah.
And we have been there. We rotated. We went to unassigned territory one year. We went to Bethel the next year. So every other year we would go to Bethel. So they were like ready to go.
Yeah.
And then we saw that video and I was like, oh my gosh. Like there I was just blown away. So then after that, I was catching up on all the John Cedars videos. I got the book from Ray Franz, Crisis of Conscience, and Christopher was like, let's read that. We're going to read that together. And I read that front to back every night and put him to sleep. And then we went through the back with all of the printouts of the letters to the organization. And he was just like, I can so see this whole thing is just crazy. It was mind-boggling at
Yeah.
first. Like, how can all of this be happening right under everyone's nose, and yet everyone thinks that it's so perfect when you're in? It's crazy.
It is crazy. The Pillowgate, that's interesting that was the one that woke you guys up. Uh, was it just the cringy quality of it,
Oh,
or what in particular was it?
it was awful. And then after that, when you looked at those guys when they were like on the broadcast, or when they were asking for money, when um, I don't remember his name, the big guy that does his eyebrows, but when they're
Oh,
um
I
I,
think I can kind of see it. Are you thinking of Let? Or no, you say he's
yes,
big?
Brother
Oh,
Let,
okay.
yeah. It's just the cringe factor. I just
Oh,
could not believe all of this is happening. And it's like we had that break in Ecuador, and we even tried to watch the annual meeting in Ecuador, and Chris was like,
yeah,
can you please turn this off? I can't
yeah,
even watch it.
Yeah.
And, and then we watched the Australian Royal Commission.
Oh, yes.
Which was actually the second thing that really turned Christopher off, because he said, the questioner said, aren't you sent from God? And he said, well, that would be presumptuous of us to say that. And Chris was like, if you're Christ's brother, like, you better own up to that. Like,
yeah. Yeah, the cock crowed, didn't it, in that moment?
Yeah. Then he's
yeah.
like, it would be presumptuous of us. And he's like, I cannot even believe he just said that.
Yeah.
They had so many chances to make everything right, but they don't.
I know. And it's funny because I remember the lead up to Jeffrey Jackson, right?
It was Jackson, yes.
Yeah. It's like, great, we're going to get some light here, we're going to hear brilliant legalistic arguments, which of course you shouldn't expect that from someone in his position. They hire lawyers for a very good reason.
Right.
But that's what I was expecting. I was like, this is awesome, governing body knows the ins and outs. You're going to get brilliant arguments. And you didn't. Not even close.
It was embarrassing. I was like, I cannot even believe that this is happening.
So yeah, John Cedars has done a lot of good work in that way. Can you maybe mention a few things about the activism of outsiders? What have you found is sort of the best methods that people have just opened up insiders' minds, believers' minds on the other side of the argument? What's the best way of doing that?
I think being calm.
Yeah.
And not being so like raiding kingdom halls or conventions, because you're brainwashed, I guess we could say, to say that these apostates go crazy.
Yeah.
So when somebody comes into a kingdom hall like that, and we've actually had that happen at our kingdom hall. The guy ran on stage and got into the microphone and was like, it's all a lie. And when they leave, you're like, well, that dude is obviously crazy.
Yeah.
So it doesn't help our side any more than it does the witnesses' side, because the witnesses tell you that these people have gone mad, or that, so they're like, oh, well, they're right. The witnesses are,
it just validates it.
Yeah, because they're crazy. So I think the way John Cedars comes off, he's like, if you're watching this, this is, just a calm, give us the facts, and the time will come. Just like when they tell you, when you call on somebody over and over and over when you're out in service, their circumstances will change, and you don't ever know when or what, but you're planting that seed, and that's all you can do. You can't force anybody to do something.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how transferable all that stuff that we learned as ministers of Jehovah's Witnesses out in service, how that does kind of apply, And I mean, I think the only difference between most, I don't want to say ex-witness activists anyway online, there are definitely people out there that's like, get out of her, and
right.
do not share in her sins. But I think for the most part, people don't even want to convince anybody. They just want the story out there of what actually happens, the other side of the argument.
Right. And I totally understand that too, and especially if you've been wronged.
Oh, yeah.
You would definitely want as many people to know as possible.
Yeah.
But there's just those people that are, it just takes time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that is a good point. I mean, it's the anger of that backs this activism that you need to get out. That's perfectly understandable and justifiable. Absolutely. Yeah, but it's as you mentioned, it's not always the best way that works. It's just people have their own time frames. We're all understanding things from our own perception. It's funny that you mentioned Pillowgate there, because there was, I don't know if maybe you mentioned there was a decisive moment where like the shackles fell off, and now you were just, the innocence was gone. You couldn't see them through the lens that you did. when you were a believer, because when you're a believer in conventions, it's, it's kind of cheesy and staged and forced and stuff like that.
Right.
But like, what is that moment where the shackles fall and there's just no going back? You can't.
Yeah. It's funny because Chris and I actually he did some assembly parts and I did a convention interview. And you don't realize it at the time. You just think that you are having like this. We were in a drama too. We were in the 2013 drama.
Oh my goodness.
But you just think that you have this amazing privilege to be interviewed in front of 8,000 people. Mine was on 2009. But they had asked Christopher to do it. And he's like, no, I don't really want to do it. Let's have Michelle do it. So then they had to kind of change the questions and stuff to fit my story. But then I also had to fit some of my answers to go into what the outline was trying to bring out.
Yes. So
when we finally did realize that these people are just money hungry and it's not the truth, I was like, it's funny that those parts that we had on the convention are just to build everyone up and think that you're doing this amazing work. But I'm looking back and I was like, I wasn't telling the whole truth.
Yeah.
in my convention part, and I don't know if that is how it is with everyone who does a part, but you have to they interview you, but you have to do it in front of the circuit overseer, and then you have to go back and do it in front of the district overseer, and then you have to do it at the convention in front of another group of people, and they tell you how to change it, what they want you to say, what's a better way to do it. So it's kind of all just to work on people's heartstrings and as their guilt strings, as if they're not doing enough. Because people were coming up to me afterwards and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe, you're pioneering with 2 kids and
heavens,
you're doing all this stuff. And then, I'm like, well, I'm struggling, I don't do my regular Bible reading.
Truth be told.
I can barely study for the Watchtower every week. I'm making it to all the meetings, but, I had 2 small kids. They're only 21 months apart, Keegan and Liam. And I've had some horrible experiences. I've had when I showed up with 2 kids and everyone in the service group had plans already and I was by myself.
Yeah.
I went home crying.
Oh man.
Because they're like, who wants to take Michelle? And they're all like, oh, I don't want to take her. She's got 2 kids. Then they were small. They were only like 3 and 1, but it took all that I had to get out that morning. I had to be at the Kingdom Hall at 9 a.m., 2 kids, snacks, drinks. I had the whole day packed so that we could do whatever anybody needed us to do. And nobody wanted to take us out. So I said, you know what? I said, I'll go out by myself. You don't even have to worry about it. Yeah. And they called me later. They're like, what happened to you? I was like, well, I went home.
Yeah.
Because y'all hurt my feelings.
Yeah. 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 Not exactly let the children come to me and do not try to stop them.
They were all like, I do not want to be in a car group with her all day.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. It's unbelievable, especially kids so young, I mean, that's you live for that, like most people should just love being around kids and so on, I don't understand that. You brought up something interesting there a moment ago, and I'm glad you did, because I was oddly thinking of this last night when I was kind of gearing up for this. Assemblies and conventions. Now, I've had the same experience, not in conventions, but assemblies. And I know exactly what you're talking about, how they would reconstruct, reenactments and so on. I remember as a kid, I did a reenactment of an actual service experience at school. I was nerdy enough to actually preach to kids growing up. I still have scars. But anyway, they reconstructed the whole thing. It was nuts, and it was like, this is no resemblance to real life at all. What happened here? And it's so weird because like it's so culty because think about how you and I prepared for this. I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I sent you an outline of things that I wanted to discuss, but I said, don't send me written answers. Like I want this to be as conversational as possible. And I want to hear your honest answers. And I want to be surprised by things so that I can add to it and it be dynamic, you know,
Right.
like, is that part of the whole cultish dynamic?
Well, I mean, even when Christopher was redoing the talks, you know, and you send the brother wants to give a talk, you know, you have to make sure that he has the outline, and the outline of the talks is specific to what Watchtower articles they want you to bring out, what certain stories they want you to bring out. And so it's not all just kind of like they did their research. It's all scripted in what they want you to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I understand you've disassociated yourself. When officially did that happen?
Probably 4 months ago.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So it's very fresh. Can you tell us a little bit about that, the circumstances surrounding that?
It's a pretty crazy story, actually. There's quite a few things that led up to me disassociating, and I wanted to disassociate when Christopher was sick.
Yeah.
But he's like, I do not want to rock the boat at this particular time, because he knew what was entailed in the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
And he knew that they would help me, and they did, and I appreciate them so much, getting all of his affairs in order after he had passed away. But there was a few things that really upset me. I had posted a couple things on Instagram, and that were not even it was like vaccine articles or something.
Oh, yes.
Well, they came to our door, the elders, and said, we need to talk to you about a few things. And Chris was like, oh, they're sending the big dogs, so we must be in some serious trouble. Because it was the presiding overseer and his assistant. Well, somebody had gotten a hold of a picture of us at the shooting range with Chris's brother, who is a sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, you have guns? And we're like, we don't have guns. We were shooting his guns. You know, so they wanted this whole backstory on why we were at the shooting range. The other one was my Instagram. Somebody didn't like the post that I posted because it hurt their feelings about vaccines. So I said, okay, I'll delete it. Another one was we had CD characters on my Instagram. And I said, excuse me, but what is a CD character? Please. I said, we just got back from Ecuador. No one there is witnesses. And he said, uh-oh. Are you there? Sorry, my phone was ringing.
Hello, no worries.
I said, we just got back from Ecuador. It's a third world country. And the clinic that we were at, we were the only witnesses.
Yeah.
Which is hard when you go somewhere. So he said, well, there was people with beards. And I looked at Christopher because he had a full beard. Because he's like, I finally get to grow a beard because we're not going to the meeting. And I'm like, CD characters? Are you serious? Yeah. He says, well, what kind of institution were you in? I said, an institution. It was a cancer clinic.
Yeah.
So all of these things just boiling. I'm like, my husband is fighting for his life, and you are worried about CD characters on my Instagram. I'm like, I'm done. Chris was like, just calm down. I know you're upset. And he even said, he's like, you got come here. We haven't seen you. And you're just, well, everybody's worried about you. Everybody's, you know, they haven't seen you. So we're really worried about you. And you're coming off the deep end here, you know. So then after Christopher passed away, they kind of got quiet. You know, they didn't come around anymore. They didn't call. And then one day they show up at the door. It was a Wednesday. And I have a camera, so I called him. I said, what do you need? You know, he's like, well, we need to talk to you. I'm like, well, can we talk about it right now? He said, no, we need to see you in person. I said, well, I'm not home. he's like, well, it's super important that we talk to you in person. So we went to dinner, and I called him. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get this over with. So I called him. I said, I'm going to be home in 20 minutes. If you want to meet me there, that's fine. So they did. It was 8:30 on a Wednesday night. The two elders came to my door and talked to me about a tattoo. I had posted a tattoo. My sister and I went and got tattoos, and they were questioning me about it. So then they wanted to know if I had a boyfriend, where I'm traveling to, because I was coming up to North Carolina. So they're like, what's going on? And I'm like, it's really none of your business.
Yeah.
So what? I said, I'm not in any kind of trouble. I'm not doing anything that where you have to come and check on me all the time.
Yeah.
So then the next day they called my sister-in-law and were asking her questions about why I was going to North Carolina, if I had a boyfriend, if she knew any information. They also called my aunt, who is an active witness, wanted to know information. I said, and they had set up a meeting with my sister-in-law. And I'm like, they can't ask you any questions. I'm like, I don't tell you anything. So that's when I called him and I said, I'm on my way to your house. I have my letter. And I videoed the whole thing because I wanted him, to know that I don't appreciate him sending out a witch hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, he was calling all of my family to see if they knew any information about me. And that's when I was like, I'm done. Here's my letter. I made him read it. And he said, all right, it will be announced next Thursday. I said, fine. I recorded that too.
Yeah. Did they try to, oh, sister, what do you think Jehovah feels about this? Or did they try to play any of that on you? That
they did.
Yeah.
And
was it just?
Yeah, but I tried to, they're like, what is making you so upset? And, and I just busted out with the Australian Royal Commission and all, stuff. They're like, well, I'm not familiar with any of that. And I'm like, well, you should know about this. There's 4 pedophiles in our Kingdom Hall alone.
Oh my God.
So, which I hadn't found out until later.
Yeah.
So I was just like, they tried, we want to help you. But then he went and called all of my family and was trying to get some dirt on me so that they could probably disfellowship me before I just said goodbye.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then there was a couple people that called and are worried about the boys, so they're like, I'm really worried about the boys, and even if it's only 1% right, at least you'll see Christopher again. Now you're not going to see him ever. So text messages were coming in, and I can't believe this is happening. I even I got a card when we got back from North Carolina the last time from an elder from another congregation that said, it was written to the boys, and it had a note to me on it. It says, I hope you don't mind me writing to the boys. There's a soft spot in my heart for them because his dad died when he was younger. But then in the letter it said, we can't come around because your mom has chosen not to be a witness at this time. So, they're still trying to talk to them, but not talk to me.
Yeah. But that's brazen, isn't it?
Yeah, it was kind of like in your face.
Yeah, it's like, don't mind us. We're just going to try to work on your kids here, indirectly, know. Yeah. Did you show it to your kids, may I ask?
I did. I read it to them. But,
well, that was big of you. I think many people would be very leery about that, but I think I would be in the same position as you, if I had kids with the background that, well, there is some measure of sincerity here. Maybe I should share it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we used to be neighbors. We lived in the same duplex together, and our kids grew up together. And I mean, I love the people.
Yeah.
The people, it's just that they have the wrong information. They're misled.
Yeah.
And they're doing what they think is right, just like we did what we thought was right when we shunned Chris's dad.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I guess that sort of accommodates my question about harassment. Is there any other ways that you were harassed, or would you even say that you were harassed?
Yeah, I wasn't not harassed so much. No, I'm just the elders constantly coming by, and then they said that they came by more than they did, and they didn't, because I was like, I have you on video. Every time you came, my camera was recording. He's like, oh, well, that's good. I'm like, well, it is good because I can tell when you were there, when you say you were, and when you weren't. Because he said, we've been coming, but you've never been home. And I said, well, that's not true because I have it all on recording. But that was pretty much the only other kind of harassment, not really.
Yeah.
We had kind of faded up until that point, so it wasn't really, kind of forgotten about, actually.
Has there been any other sort of snooping around among your relatives, or have they pretty well left you alone in that way too since you left?
Yeah, well, where we live in the territory is right on the corner. So witnesses, I mean, we live in like a hub, so everybody driving by, there's witnesses going to the meeting. There's quite a few witnesses that live around me, so they used to honk and wave. They don't. Oh, yes. They don't anymore.
Have you been to the meetings following your disassociation? I mean, I'm guessing not, but just out of curiosity, no. Do you think
we went to the memorial.
Yeah.
In 2019, and then everybody was super stoked to see us, but I haven't been back since.
It's funny, like, I think, as I said, I think the last time I went was for the memorial a few years ago. And I just went, I always say I just went to see the wildlife. Right. I don't exactly know what motivated me to go. And I guess it was such an important part of my life for so long that I do kind of like to see what's new. Do you identify with that at all?
I think so,
is that rational or?
Yeah, because like even watching some of the John Cedars, like when he does the monthly broadcast and he breaks it down, I'm kind of like curious as to what kind of news we got going on, or the annual reports. I'm like, how many people are actually still going out in service? I'm like, the number doesn't ever really change.
Yeah.
But at some points, but yeah, it's fun to kind of see what's new and what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I understand you've relocated. Do you have any history with the witnesses over there?
Nobody knows who I am.
Yeah, and that was probably your motivation in leaving.
It was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that makes sense. When someone disassociates themselves from this organization, the witnesses often spin it as though it's the leaver who's shunning the congregation. Do you have any thoughts on that? Just for the record, would you like to explain how you feel regarding that for those who may still believe? Anything in that direction?
It's almost the same as being disfellowshipped. Because when they announce it to the congregation, they say Michelle Hoffman is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So it's not like they know that I disassociated, like all the people that I hadn't talked to before I disassociated. So they automatically assume certain things, not really knowing. And in the elders book, it actually says that if someone asks if they were disfellowshipped or disassociated, if you ask, they'll tell you.
Right.
But nobody has the elders book, so it's not like they're going to know. You just are disfellowshipped, like, oh my gosh, what did she do wrong?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that's kind of why I wanted to fade, because I kind of just wanted to go, be forgotten about, not having all of these stories, told about me. So it's, disassociation, disfellowshipping, it's the same thing. It's just I chose to be disfellowshipped. They didn't choose to disfellowship me. It's kind of the rundown I get.
Yeah. You can't fire me, I quit.
Right. But they don't tell the congregation that.
Yeah.
They just let them assume, the worst, like I'm out fornicating or partying.
Oh yeah.
That's I'm sure the story that's going on.
Well, they
Chris
have to
died,
spin
now
it that
Michelle's
way.
off on the deep end.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that this idea that the leaver is shunning the congregation, like they pulled that in the Royal Commission too? In fact, there's a real funny video. Maybe I'll have it linked below in the description actually, where the judge, can't remember his name, he was like, but like they're not shunning the congregation,
Right.
like they're doing this for their own sanity. It's not that they're saying you can't talk to them. And you should have seen the two brothers defending this position. It went back and forth for about 5 minutes. And the judge just like threw up his hands in the air and looked at the lawyer, and the lawyer was like, I don't,
Yeah. How do you explain it?
yeah,
But I do feel that, like, I did see somebody, I have seen witnesses out and about, and I walk up to them, or if I make eye contact with them, I smile because it's not my rules.
yeah,
I left, but it's your rules or their rules that stop them from talking to me. But
yeah.
I'm going to be a bigger person. And I gave the woman a hug and was like, I haven't seen you in so long, because we
Oh,
were
good for you.
neighbors.
Yeah,
And she was kind of like taken back because I don't even know if she knew.
yeah,
But, I'm like, I'm not shunning anyone.
yeah,
I didn't shun people in the end, we had a friend get disfellowshipped, and Christopher was actually on her judicial committee. And I was like, I can't turn my back on her.
yeah,
It's just not, it's their rules, not mine.
yeah. Yeah, it's funny. That's how I see it too. So you've kind of got the same view that I'm not participating in this whole thing.
Right.
Is that what would you recommend that, or do you feel that like sometimes when people leave, they feel that I'll still respect the arrangement kind of thing. Do you think that's what are your thoughts on that whole
Yeah,
thing?
I mean, I guess it depends on the person, because
Yeah,
there's some people that I see out, and they're kind of like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
they don't want, and I won't, I'm not gonna look at you if you don't want to talk to me. That's fine.
yeah,
But if if you're gonna, I just feel bad that they have that mindset that they can just. You spend so much time trying to bring people in to the truth, but
yeah.
yet the people that are struggling, they're just left to do their own thing and struggle. And I just think it's backwards. It's totally
It is.
backwards.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to say? Because this is a big hot button for people who've left. Is there anything else that you'd like to say on the disfellowing policies in general?
Well, I read the article from 1947 when,
Yeah.
they're talking about the Catholics and their
Yes.
excommunications and how it's not biblically necessary. And it's like, I wish more people knew about that. I
Yeah.
wish it was more. I don't even remember where I found the article. My mother-in-law probably sent it to me, but I just wish that it's gotten so far into the just rules and regulations,
Yeah.
what you can't do. It's constantly what you can't do. It's so. I mean, it's like they take you and they put you in a little spring. There was a talk a long time ago, raising a teenager. If you don't let that spring out, it's just gonna bust. It's
Yeah.
like I can use that towards the witnesses, that they are, just constantly pushing on you and pushing on you and pushing on you, and eventually the top's gonna come off, and
Hmm.
what's gonna hit the fan,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. I'll have that Watchtower reference. I actually held on to that Watchtower reference in 1947, I think it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
where they were very condemnatory towards the Catholics for doing this. What's funny is I think the Catholics have changed on that. Yeah. So I'll have that linked in the description below
Okay.
as well. As we know, despite the strong statements of the governing body, not all Jehovah's Witnesses shun. It's some have a more liberal or progressive
Oh
attitude
yeah.
towards that. I know personally I did. I should say I had a progressive attitude. I don't remember ever shunning anyone overtly. There was only one time where a disassociated person was coming to the meetings. I was about 16, and he was kind of an interrupter. He would try to spark conversation. So in soiled conscience, I can say I did shun him, and I still feel bad, even though I had fairly legitimate reasons for doing it. Uh, do you think, like, have you noticed that, first of all, that some of the witnesses are not um, quite as, big on the shunning, or
Yeah.
have a liberal?
Again, I think it's all in who you are.
Yes.
We had an elder in the congregation. He has 5 children, 3 of which are disfellowshipped.
Wow.
And one has a mental illness. They're bipolar, but she needed help moving.
Yeah.
And he recruited brothers from the congregation to help his disfellowshipped daughter move.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm like, how is that fair?
Yeah.
When other people, I had a really close friend of mine, her best friend got disfellowshipped. And she
Mm-hmm.
was brought into the back room, and they said, do you not understand the arrangement?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, we were sitting next to each other at a football game, a
Yeah.
high school football game. It's not like they, were secretly, they didn't talk. They didn't
Yeah.
do anything that was inappropriate, but somebody saw them, had her in the back room and said, what don't you understand about the disfellowshipping arrangement?
Yeah.
So it's like, it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's for sure.
definitely see the leniency of that.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, there are sources that are much fewer than the condemnatory ones, but there are sources in the Watchtower where they've said, that religion should never get between families and things like that. I can source that in the description as well. And so, I think if you're a more liberal person, you'll latch onto that. I certainly did. And I would even wave to people that I kind of felt sympathy for, who got disfellowshipped. In traffic, I'd just sort of give them a wave or a head nod, just to let them know that, like, not all of us are unbalanced in this way.
Right.
But I think that depends on the person, and it kind of depends on the culture, as you said.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to say if all witnesses are really this harsh, But I think, there's enough tales out there to know that it exists to a large extent.
Yeah. It definitely depends
Yeah.
on the situation and who you are. Like, even I had an aunt, her daughter got disfellowshipped, but they were still Facebook friends, and she would still post stuff like secretly to
Yeah.
her, not to get in trouble. But they're still human beings. I just don't, I just don't think you should treat your alleged family the way that they want you to treat them. And even in the 2016 convention, where they had the mom looking at the phone and it's her daughter calling, and she didn't even pick up the phone.
Yeah, I saw
The
that.
mom put the phone down, and I'm like, what if she's, it's the amount that they put on it that you should shun to the extent is just not humanly right.
No, it isn't. Now, a little bit of getting onto a different topic here. How have you processed the loss of your husband and your faith? Because, the change in hope is disorienting. And maybe you can also talk about, if you're comfortable with this, what your hopes are now, or what your views are on that, religious views you may have, anything like that.
It is funny because I know there's a creator, but like, the relationship that I thought that I had with him has been totally disrupted. And
Mm-hmm.
I've had, people calling me, telling me about the hope and that I'm not going to see
Yeah.
Christopher again. But before he passed away, he said, we'll be together again.
Yeah.
So he had already in his mind that wherever we were going to go, we'll all be together. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of resting on that there's I don't think there's any kind of right religion.
No.
None of us know what is going on, when it's going to end, and we kind of just have to be good people up until that point is where I'm at. Be the best person that I can be, helping people the way that I know how to help people, be a good person, which, the witnesses are like, oh yeah, they say be a good person. That doesn't rest, your morals don't rest on that. But what are you going to do? I mean, my spiritual mind is constantly like just exploding, thinking about things that you kind of just have to stop, do what's right now, and wait and kind of see what's going to happen.
So it's disorienting, but no more disorienting than you're kind of left with anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think that's helpful, because when I left, we've certainly suffered tragedies in our family. It's true that it's like, yeah, we lost this hope, but at the end of the day, nobody knows what happens on the other side. So why get too worried about it, or in this existential crisis,
Right.
So
I know.
yeah. Now we're going to get into some finer details about things as we go along, but before we do, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience? Just something you want to get off your chest, or it can either be for people who are believers or people who've left, just advice, anything like that.
It does get easier if you're thinking about leaving, and you do. It's kind of disheartening, because it's your life. All the people that you've known your entire life don't talk to you anymore. And it's kind of like strange to think about. But I've been on ex-Jehovah's Witness groups on Facebook, and like met at meetups with ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's actually helped.
Oh, good.
I mean, there's life after the Watchtower.
Oh, yes.
You can meet amazing people. There's like, when Christopher was sick, we went to Mexico, we went to Ecuador, we went to Arizona. We were all just trying to find some natural healing places, and which is another reason that we kind of got out, because people, the witnesses say these worldly people, have it all wrong, but they are doing what we're doing. They have a hope just like the witnesses do. And they are more Christian than some of the witnesses that I know.
Oh, yes.
And we met some amazing, amazing people. And it's like, how can we condemn them to death when they don't know? It's like, I can't picture such a harsh God that, these people are putting their heart and soul in what they think is right and being good people. I mean, who are we to judge all of that?
Yeah.
But so there are just amazing people out there that, I mean, even just telling somebody that you are an ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, I've gotten quite a few people like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that, and they want to know more, and you end up being really good friends and kind of a support.
Yeah. Tell me about married life with an elder.
It ain't easy.
Yeah.
It ain't easy. The responsibilities of an elder are endless, and it doesn't stop at the end of the day.
No.
The endless meetings. There was times that we didn't leave the Kingdom Hall on a Thursday night when the meeting was over 8:45 until 11:30 p.m.
Wow.
And I told my husband, I was like, why can't these people just behave?
Yeah.
Why do we have to have a meeting after a meeting when the kids have school the next day, and we're sitting in the empty Kingdom Hall waiting for them to get out of a judicial or even just elderly duties,
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, oh, we want you to be with your family, and it's, but it's a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. Was he ever called in last minute to deal with emergencies in the congregation, or you mentioned some unexpected work, judicial matters?
Yeah.
Were there any emergency crisis situations?
Yeah, not even only with like stuff going on in the Kingdom Hall. I mean, people had his phone number. Brothers and
Yeah.
sisters had their phone number, so they would call us or call him all hours of the night.
Wow.
Midnight. We had a sister call that her son was going crazy. She had the cops at her house, and I'm like, what are we supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? But she wanted Christopher to talk to her son, because he was going off on a wrong path and was, got the cops involved. But so yeah, it's a never ending
Yeah.
job.
I know too, for elders' wives, the expectation is so much higher, about your behavior. You mentioned, some of your socials there, well, this was after you had left there, or kind of faded. What's it like living under that public scrutiny?
All eyes on you all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I had an issue with one of the sisters in the congregation, and I had to handle it. I had to be the bigger person because of who I was.
Mm-hmm.
But she was constantly watching us and my kids. She had it out for them so bad. I don't even know why. She wanted me to punish my kids, like beat them. She handed me a packet of Watchtowers that talked about, the rod of discipline. And I'm like, my kids aren't even bad. They've been cooped up for 2.5 hours at a meeting, and they were talking to their friends in the little aisleway of the chairs, and the chairs pushed and knocked her over, but she's 400 pounds.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how? My son is only 5 years old at the time.
Yeah.
And she came in with an arm brace the next meeting and said that my son had paralyzed her.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
And that we were paying for her medical bills.
Wow.
And then the presiding overseer was like, we'll take care of it. This isn't the first time that we've had an issue with this woman. But it happened on more than one occasion. My kids liked to open the door for the brothers and sisters, the elderly, so they'd open the main doors to the Kingdom Hall, and they would be like, welcome, I'm like, all right, we're doing this parent thing right.
Yeah.
The one time Keegan opened the door, it happened to be her.
Mm-hmm.
And he hit her with the door, allegedly. And here we go again.
Yeah.
That finally, I was like, I don't even want to go to the meeting anymore, because she was watching me every time. She wanted me to literally beat him every time he did something wrong. And I was like, I don't even want to go.
Yeah.
Because the constant, and Chris said, he's like, this is going to be a big job because everybody is going to expect more of me and you because I'm an elder and of our kids. And some of that even happened before he was an elder. It was after he had just come in, but it's more so when you're an elder's wife, they expect more of you. Like, you are supposed to be, but I'm just a regular person.
Yeah.
Trying to do what they're doing.
Yeah, I think it would almost be like living in the royal family, like just all eyes are on you, as you said, and constant scrutiny and
or commenting. I never comment. I couldn't comment enough. I wasn't out in service enough. And commenting just made me extremely nervous. Like, my heart is going to pop out of my chest. And I would make little comments, and the boys would make comments because we had them all written out. And it's still not enough. You have to be on your game constantly.
Yeah. Yeah, no kidding. So recently I made a video about the sexual shame that goes on in this religion. One of the things I mentioned was how the elders are expected to weigh in on very sensitive and explicit sexual matters. I think it contributes to a lot of the scandals that happen at the administrative level. What did you think about how the elders are asked to weigh in on people's private and explicit behaviors?
It's hard being an elder's wife when you have women calling your husband and talking to them about their sexual and problems, encounters.
Oh, no kidding.
There was one that got a little too close, and I told Christopher, I said, she's hunting you down at the Kingdom Hall and texting you all the time. Like,
My God.
You need to change elders. You need to have her talk to somebody else. And I even talked to her, and I was adamant. I'm like, it is getting too much.
Yeah.
Because they're not allowed to talk about what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So what are you're automatically assuming the worst,
Yeah.
I have to meet with so-and-so tonight. And I'm like, why? Well, she's having an issue. I'm like, have her call somebody else.
Yeah.
Well, I'm helping with the judicial committee. I'm like, yeah, I'm not comfortable with that. Every meeting she would hound him down. Or, another sister, I feel so comfortable with Christopher. I can just talk to him about anything. And then I'm like, you're talking about intimate relations with your husband, with my husband.
Yeah.
Like her issues, her medical issues in that area. I'm like, or even people not being able to make their own decisions about their sexuality or what they find right and wrong in their own bedroom, where they have to go to the elders and ask for advice. Like 76-year-old people wanting a blowjob cannot make their own decision.
Oh, man.
It's just, he's, you're not supposed to talk about that stuff, but there were certain things that, when you're in a meeting till 11:30 at night with this couple that needs sexual, advice or what they should do or what they shouldn't do, they can't think for themselves. He was kind of like, this is what's going on.
Incredible.
But some of the stuff I'm just like, they make it to where you don't make your own decisions. And then or even when they have a judicial committee and you're coming to, there was a little teenage girl that had lived with a boy that was older than her. And the detail that they ask the questions.
Yeah.
You shouldn't need to know that unless she tells you. Like I was always like, I don't understand why this is, I don't think you should be asking those questions. Maybe, but it's all in the elders book of the questions and the they're like, well, the one girl just kept going on and telling what had happened even without them asking questions, because she was
sharing time.
letting it all come out and come clean. But I don't know, I just, certain things I just think that we should just leave alone. And it's not.
It's messed up, like, and then you wonder why these elders end up in a situation swapping lives and stuff like this, and it's like, don't kid yourselves, these are just people, people. I don't know. So something I know I really struggled with when I was leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses was how I would retain a moral system in the world. I never thought of unbelievers as morally corrupt necessarily, but I felt at the time that witnesses were definitely the only one authority on ethics. Did you go through something like this? How do you view morality now?
Yeah, they definitely are very clean people. They're, they have very high standards in certain aspects of that. I just think that they go too far in some certain aspects and not far enough in different aspects, I guess. And I still try to raise my kids with good morals, and I think everybody tries to do the same. You want the best for you and your kids, and teaching them right from wrong is just something that everyone does.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. On that point, you said that you still have a belief in God. Do you think that plays into ethics? Do you think that it's something a little more firm to ground ethics upon? And this is a personal opinion thing, so.
Yeah, I think it gives you kind of like accountability.
Yeah.
If you have that belief of what's going to happen if you're not moral, or vice versa, then I think it kind of helps you in your way to kind of keep on the straight and narrow, I guess you would say.
Yeah. It's a tough concept. I know a lot of people struggle with this when they're leaving the witnesses. So yeah, to your point earlier, like there is life out there, people. It's and there's many ways in which, and you mentioned this, that witnesses are completely immoral because of what is taught. So we're kind of on equal footing in that area. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah. The other question I wanted to ask you about was, you've been through a lot of tragedy in your life, and again, my condolences. It's tough. Are there any coping or cognitive skills that you've learned, you've picked up since you've left the group?
I don't really know if I've picked any of them up. I have just been trying to do what I think Christopher would want us to do.
Yeah.
Kind of, not so much, it's kind of a tough question. I haven't really thought about it.
Well, fair enough. And I hope that doesn't put you on the spot in any way.
No.
We all process tragedy in different ways, don't we? So, yeah.
I mean,
no,
it's
that's
still kind
completely
of
fair.
It's weird going on, moving forward without him.
Yeah.
But he was kind of our compass, I guess you'd say, kind of helping us, if we needed anything, we would always be like, what does Christopher do? What does he think about the whole thing? So having it all fall on me is definitely different,
Yeah.
I'm the head of the household now, pretty much.
Yeah.
But the witnesses have helped us or me with that, knowing that I am strong enough that I can handle it.
Yeah.
And we just have to move forward and see what happens.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And it seems like you're handling that in a very healthy way. You're in a new place now. You're doing lots of travel, and you're raising your kids with manners and all of that. So yeah, good job, because a lesser person would not be able to pull it off the way you've done. So
I appreciate it.
Oh, what was that? Sorry?
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, for sure. I really mean it. Well, thank you so much, Michelle, for agreeing to do this here. And I also want to extend a thank you to, it was your mother, right? Who
My
put us in touch?
Yeah, Chris's
your
mom.
mother-in-law.
Yep.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. And I've actually had a chance to speak with her on the comments and so on, and she seems like a very sincere and nice person. So it's been nice to be a part of all that. I think this interview will do a lot of good for witnesses and ex-witnesses alike. This is my very first interview on this channel, so I hope I did everything okay and didn't miss any opportunities. Now, something everyone should know is I never screen any of my comments below. So please feel free to address anything you'd like to say to Michelle. And that goes for you too, Michelle. Please feel free to come back and look at what people say. There's lots of encouraging things that people leave down there. So yeah, and I never, if it's not on there, it's because of YouTube, not me. I have strong feelings on that.
Yeah, or if
anything
we
else?
missed anything and anybody has any questions that we might have missed, maybe I could answer
for
those
sure.
too.
Definitely take advantage of that. And what else was I going to say? I guess that's everything. Thank you so much for taking the time, and happy travels.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
Yeah, it was great meeting you too. All right, have a great afternoon, okay?
Thank you, you too.
Thanks again. All right, bye for now. Hey guys, did you like this video? You know what to do. And if something I mentioned today resonated with you, click one of them cards on this screen. I have lots of related content sure to interest you. Thanks as always for your views, and we'll see you next time.